What makes a person unshakable? Why do some people remain calm, powerful, and untouchable, even when the world turns against them? Most of us break when attacked, when insulted, when others try to pull us down. But there are a rare few who stand firm, like stone, unbothered by storms. What's their secret? Today, we go back 500 years to uncover a dangerous truth hidden in the writings of one man, Machiavelli. Machiavelli is often remembered as the master of power, a man whose name became linked with cunning and manipulation. But behind the myths, behind the dark reputation, lies a thinker who understood something deeper: the human mind, and how it can either be broken by others or made unbreakable. He lived in Renaissance Italy, a time when betrayal, war, and shifting alliances were daily realities. Politicians fell overnight. Families were destroyed by rivals. Kings and popes were overthrown. In this world, survival demanded more than courage. It demanded strategy, and Machiavelli mastered it. His most famous book, The Prince, is often called a guide for rulers. But if you read it closely, it is more than that. It is a map of human behavior, a revelation of how power works in every relationship, between leaders and subjects, between friends and enemies, between you and the people around you. Machiavelli's insights are not just for princes or generals. They are for anyone who has ever felt pressured, insulted, or manipulated. They are for anyone who has ever wondered, how do I stay strong when the world tries to break me? One lesser-known fact about Machiavelli is that he didn't write his book while holding power. He wrote it after he lost everything. He had been a respected statesman in Florence, serving for years, trusted with diplomacy and war strategy. But when the Medici family returned to power, he was dismissed, arrested, even tortured. Imagine that: a man who had once commanded armies, suddenly stripped of dignity, chained, humiliated. Yet, instead of collapsing, instead of begging for mercy, he sat down and wrote The Prince. Out of his darkest moment, he created a work that still shakes the world today. That alone should tell us something. Machiavelli's lessons on strength were not abstract. They were born from pain, betrayal, and survival. And here is what makes him so relevant today. We may not live in Renaissance Florence, but we live in a world of power struggles. At work, in friendships, in family, even online, people try to control, to influence, to provoke. Some will cheer you when you succeed and vanish when you fail. Others will smile to your face but plot behind your back. The same human nature that Machiavelli observed centuries ago is still alive. His power secret, the ability to remain unbothered, unbroken, untouchable, is just as urgent for us now as it was for rulers then. In this video, you will learn Machiavelli's hidden strategies for mental toughness. You will see how perception is often more important than reality, and how people who appear strong often win respect even before they act. You will learn why controlling your emotions is the greatest defense, why silence can be more powerful than words, and why setting boundaries makes others think twice before challenging you. You will discover Machiavelli's advice to be both fox and lion, cunning enough to detect traps, strong enough to scare off enemies, and you will understand how he believed that one must never rely fully on others for strength, but build it from within. Stay with me until the end, because this is not just history. This is a code for your life. If you apply these principles, you will stop giving power to those who insult you, those who doubt you, those who wish to see you broken. You will walk with quiet strength, the kind that cannot be shaken. This is Machiavelli's true power secret, and it is one that few dare to speak out loud. So welcome to Psych Algorithm, where we uncover the truths others fear to tell. If you want to learn how to master yourself, how to protect your dignity, and how to command respect without begging for it, then you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button now, because what you are about to hear could change the way you see power forever. Before we talk about the secret of never letting anyone bother you or break you, we must first look at something Machiavelli understood better than most: the nature of people. Because if you don't understand people, you will always be surprised, disappointed, even betrayed by them. But once you see them as they are, you will stop expecting too much, and you will stop giving them the power to hurt you. Machiavelli lived in a time of endless betrayals. He saw allies turn into enemies overnight. He watched leaders who seemed beloved, suddenly abandoned by the same crowds who once cheered their names. And through all of this, he came to a conclusion that shocks many. Even today, people are not always loyal, not always grateful, not always consistent. They are selfish, they are fickle, and they are driven by benefit. This might sound harsh, but think about your own life. How many times have people supported you when things were going well, when you had success, when you had something to give, but disappeared when you were struggling? Machiavelli observed the same pattern centuries ago. He wrote that men are quick to promise loyalty when danger is far away, but when danger comes close, when sacrifice is required, most will choose their own safety over their word. Writers like Ed Latimore have explained this clearly. People act in their own self-interest first. They want comfort, they want safety, they want advantage. If supporting you gives them those things, they will stay. If it costs them, they will leave. It isn't always personal. It's human nature. And when you stop expecting people to be anything other than human, you stop being broken by their actions. Modern thinkers on platforms like Medium have pointed out how freeing this perspective can be. Instead of living in anger or disappointment when people let you down, you accept it as part of life. You realize that loyalty is rare, that gratitude often fades, that promises are fragile. And when you know this, you build your strength, not on others, but on yourself. Machiavelli saw this truth play out in politics, but it applies everywhere. Think of the workplace. When a company is growing and successful, everyone speaks about teamwork, loyalty, and shared vision. But the moment layoffs begin, when survival is at stake, people start thinking about their own position, their own paycheck, their own safety. Friends at work may turn into competitors overnight. This is exactly what Machiavelli described. When times are easy, support is plenty. When times are hard, support vanishes. It also happens in friendships. When you are fun to be around, when you are winning, when you are the one who pays the bill or brings energy, people gather around you. But when you hit a low point, when you cannot give, many of those same people disappear. They do not want to carry your weight. They want benefit, not burden. Machiavelli would say, do not be shocked. This is simply how human beings are. Even in families, where loyalty will be strongest, Machiavelli's truth can be seen. Some relatives support each other in every storm, but many measure love in terms of what is given and received. If you cannot meet expectations, if you stop providing, if you show weakness, some ties grow cold. Machiavelli would never tell you to hate them for this. He would tell you to understand them, because when you understand, you stop giving them power over your heart. And this is why Machiavelli is still important today. His words remind us that our strength cannot rest on the shifting sands of others' approval. If you rely on people always being loyal, always being kind, always being fair, you will always be disappointed. But if you prepare for the fact that most people serve their own interests, you cannot be shaken when they do exactly that. So before we talk about building unbreakable strength, remember this: do not expect people to be what they are not. Do not expect them to sacrifice for you when their own survival is at risk. Do not expect gratitude to last forever. Machiavelli stripped away the illusion. He saw clearly that people act for themselves. And once you accept this, you will never again be surprised when people vanish in your hard times. Instead, you will be ready. And readiness is the first step toward never being broken. Before we move further into Machiavelli's power secret, we need to face another truth he never stopped repeating. Perception matters more than reality. For most people, it is not what you truly are that shapes their treatment of you. It is what they believe you are. A weak person who appears strong will be treated with respect, while a strong person who appears uncertain will invite attack. Machiavelli saw this again and again in politics. and in daily life, and it has not changed. In fact, in our world of appearances, where images travel faster than reality, it has only become more important. Machiavelli wrote that rulers, and by extension anyone seeking power, should pay close attention to how they present themselves. A prince may not always be merciful, but he must appear merciful. He may not always be generous, but he must appear generous when it matters. And the same applies to us today. People do not see your inner struggles. They see the face you show them. If that face looks calm, confident, and in control, they are less likely to challenge you. If it looks uncertain, shaken, or defensive, they sense weakness, and weakness invites attack. Writers today on platforms like Medium echo this lesson. They explain that much of human interaction is based on signals, not on truth. People decide if you are worth respecting within seconds, often before you even speak. They watch your body language, your tone, your expression. If you project control, they treat you carefully. If you project doubt, they test your limits. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago, and he urged us never to forget it. But perception alone is not enough. To hold that appearance of strength, you must also master your emotions. This is another key to Machiavelli's wisdom. Anyone can look calm when life is easy. The test comes when you are insulted, provoked, or challenged. Most people react quickly, angrily, without thought. They give away their inner state to everyone watching, and the moment you react hastily, you hand over power. The one who provoked you suddenly controls the situation. They pull your strings, and you dance. Machiavelli would say, do not give them this power. To remain unbroken, you must learn to stay calm under attack. Do not show anger easily. Do not let words drag you into emotional chaos. When someone insults you, they expect reaction. When you stay silent, or respond with calm precision, you rob them of their victory. A controlled face, a steady voice, a pause before you speak. These are weapons sharper than swords. They keep others guessing. They make people wonder how much you know, how much you plan, how far you are willing to go. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, someone insults you in front of others. You lash out, your face red, your words rushed. Everyone watching knows you are hurt. They sense they can reach you. In the second, someone insults you, and you simply look at them, calm, silent, even smiling slightly. You do not defend. You do not plead. You do not explain. When watching senses something else. This person is untouchable. This person cannot be rattled. That is the Machiavellian name. Along with calmness comes another lesson. Setting boundaries. Machiavelli warned against allowing constant interruptions, because every interruption you tolerate lowers your respect. It might seem small, but it builds a pattern. If people feel free to cut across your words, to dismiss your presence, to ignore your authority, you soon lose influence. Respect is not demanded in speeches. It is enforced in small actions. Goodreads preserves one of his warnings clearly. Never let others interrupt you, because you will lose respect when you allow it. That does not mean shouting, nor does it mean aggression. It means calmly reclaiming ease. If someone interrupts, you stop and wait. You look at them until they fall silent. You continue speaking with composure, without anger, without desperation. The message is clear: I allow you space, but I do not surrender mine. Over time, people learn your limits. They know what you tolerate and what you do not, and in that clarity, respect grows. This is not only about conversations, it applies to behavior of all kinds. If someone repeatedly treats you in ways that reduce your dignity, and you accept it silently, you train them to disrespect you. If you set the boundary calmly without drama, you send a different signal. Machiavelli's advice remains practical. Power belongs to those who define the terms of interaction. If you do not define yours, others will define them for you. But there is another mistake many people make when dealing with pressure. They believe they must always defend themselves. They think that every insult needs explanation. Every rumor needs denial. Every challenge needs justification. Machiavelli would laugh at this. Constant defense makes you look weaker, not stronger. The more you explain, the more you seem guilty. The more you argue, the more you seem desperate. True power is not in defending yourself against every voice. It is in knowing when silence is louder than words. Sometimes, letting your actions speak is stronger than the longest speech. If you remain steady while others talk, time itself proves them wrong. If you continue to succeed while others spread lies, your results bury their words. And sometimes, when you must speak, choose precise words. Short, controlled, undeniable. A single phrase can cut deeper than a long explanation. A single truth calmly delivered can silence a room. Machiavelli also added another dangerous truth. He said it is better for a leader to be feared than loved, if he cannot be both. But he warned against hatred. Fear brings respect, caution, distance. Hatred reads plots, revenge, destruction. The lesson here is subtle. You do not need everyone to like you. You do not even need everyone to admire you. But you must make them think twice before disrespecting you. That hesitation, that caution, is often enough to keep people in line. Think of how this applies in everyday life. At work, a manager who is too eager to please ends up ignored. A manager who sets clear expectations and enforces them calmly may not be loved, but is respected. In friendships, someone who always explains themselves, who always apologizes, often becomes the one others push around. But someone who speaks less, who chooses their words carefully, is treated with more care. In public, a person who explodes at every slight becomes known as fragile. A person who stays calm, who keeps control, becomes known as strong. Perception, emotion, boundaries, assertion. These are not separate rules. They form one system, one shield. They make people see you as untouchable, even if inside you sometimes doubt yourself. And once see you that way, they act accordingly. Because people are guided by signals. They test, they probe, they push. And the signals you give decide whether they stop or whether they continue. Machiavelli, centuries ago, understood this better than anyone. Before we continue, we have to confront one of the most dangerous traps that breaks people more than anything else: the need for approval. Machiavelli understood that if your sense of self comes from the opinions of others, you are already defeated. Because the moment people see that your happiness rises and falls with their approval, they hold power over you. They can lift you with praise or crush you with silence. And when you are that vulnerable, you are no longer in control of yourself. This is why Machiavelli urged us to build inner resources: knowledge, courage, and what he called virtù. Not virtue in the modern sense of morality, but the strength to shape events, to act with boldness when the moment demands it. If you build this inside yourself, you become less dependent on applause or validation. You are no longer waiting for others to tell you that you are worthy. You already know it. Think about it in practical terms. If you depend on praise to feel confident, every insult becomes a knife. If you depend on others to give you direction, every disagreement becomes a crisis. But if you have built knowledge, skills that no one can take away, then even when others mock you, you know your worth. If you have built courage, you act even when others doubt. If you have built inner strength, silence from the crowd does not break you. This is the Machiavellian way: strength that comes from within, not from the fragile approval of the outside. Writers on Medium have emphasized this again and again. You must become your own source of validation. Because the crowd is fickle. They cheer when you succeed, but they are just as quick to turn when you stumble. They celebrate when you give, but they vanish when you have nothing to offer. If you live by their voice, you die by their silence. But if you build your own voice, if you can stand in a room alone and still know your value, then you are free. But Machiavelli did not stop at inner strength. He also taught adaptability. He warned rulers that survival required more than bravery. It required flexibility. He compared power to being both a fox and a lion. The fox is cunning, able to detect traps, never walking blindly into danger. The lion is strong, able to frighten wolves, never appearing weak when challenged. Alone, each quality is incomplete. A lion without cunning falls into traps. A fox without strength is eaten by wolves. But together, cunning and strength, you are untouchable. This is not just theory. In his time, Machiavelli saw leaders destroyed because they were only lions. Brutal, strong, but predictable, easy to trick. Others were only foxes, clever, subtle, but too weak to command respect when force was needed. The survivors were those who could shift between roles, cunning when strategy was required, bold when force was necessary. The same principle applies to us. In daily life, some situations demand the fox. You keep your thoughts hidden. You observe. You outmaneuver quietly. In other situations, you must be the lion. You speak with authority. You show strength. You make it clear that you will not be pushed. The wisdom lies in knowing which mask to wear, which move to make. Too much subtlety, and you look cowardly. Too much strength, and you look reckless. Balance is the art of power. Headway and other thinkers have highlighted this lesson as timeless. Life demands duality. To survive, to rise, you cannot be one-dimensional. You must hold both faces within you and use them as the moment demands. Machiavelli also gave a chilling but practical rule about threats. He said if you must harm someone, do it in one stroke. Do not spread it out. Do not aid it on. Harm, if necessary, must be quick and final. Kindness, on the other hand, should be given in small doses, often, so that it is felt more deeply and remembered longer. This advice may sound ruthless, but it is rooted in human psychology. When someone suffers harm in small, repeated moments, their anger grows and festers. They remember every cut. But when the harm is swift, sudden, final, the mind accepts it and moves on. By DOS, small positive acts, favors, gestures, recognition, spread over time, keep loyalty alive. Machiavelli understood that timing and proportion matter more than intention. A single grand favor soon fades, but steady, repeated kindness builds attachment. Effectiviology and others who study strategy have pointed out how relevant this is even today. In leadership, if you must make unpopular decisions, it is better to do them quickly, in one decisive moment, instead of dragging people through endless pain. But when you reward or show appreciation, it is better to give in small, frequent ways, so the feeling never fades. People remember patterns more than single moments. Machiavelli knew this long before psychology explained it. But even with strategy and cunning, there is another mindset shift that protects you from being broken. You must understand that you are not your critic. Their voices, their insults, their judgments, these are not the truth of you. They are reflections of their own fears, their own insecurities, their own desires. Machiavelli saw that enemies often attack, not because of who you are, but because of what they want. They might envy your position. They might fear your rise. They might seek to distract from their own weakness. Their attack is about them, not about you. And if you internalize their judgment, you give them what they could never take by force: control over your mind. Detaching your self-worth from external judgment is not easy, but it is necessary. It means reminding yourself that the crowd is unreliable. One day they call you a hero, the next day they call you a villain. If you build your sense of self on that noise, you will live in chaos. But if you know who you are, if you measure yourself by your own inner standards, you will not be shaken. This mindset frees you. Imagine someone mocking you in public. If your self-worth depends on them, you crumble. But if your self-worth is built inside, their words slide off you. They not define you. Imagine critics attacking your work. If you depend on their approval, you stop. But if you depend on your own inner compass, you continue, you stay steady, and over time, results prove stronger than words. Machiavelli himself lived this. After being tortured and humiliated, many thought he was finished. He had lost his position, his dignity, his freedom. But instead of letting his enemies define him, he retreated into himself. He studied. He wrote. He created the Prince. Out of rejection, he built one of the most powerful texts on human nature ever written. That was his revenge. Not anger, not begging, but creation. He was no longer dependent on the approval of Florence or the Medici. He drew his strength from within. This is the model he leaves us. To never be broken, you must stop living for the crowd. You must stop waiting for others to tell you that you matter. Build your own resources. Learn, strengthen, prepare. Be cunning when the world lays traps. Be bold when the wolves circle. Act decisively when threats rise. Spread kindness in small, steady doses, so loyalty grows. And never let the voices of critics decide your worth. Their words come from their own weakness, not from your truth. When you live this way, you are untouchable. Not because life becomes easy, not because enemies vanish, but because nothing outside you controls the core of who you are. And that, more than anything else, is the secret that keeps you from ever being broken. Your power is inside you. That is the truth Machiavelli tried to reveal, and it is the truth that still matters today. If you have followed this journey, you now see how it all connects. People will always be selfish, fickle, and driven by their own interests. You cannot expect loyalty in hard times, because most will vanish when they see no benefit in standing beside you. That is why your strength cannot depend on others. It must begin with understanding. Once you understand people for what they are, not as you wish them to be, you stop being surprised, you stop being disappointed, and you stop giving them the power to break you. But knowledge of people alone is not enough. Machiavelli showed us the importance of perception. The world does not always reward what you truly are. It rewards what people think you are. That is why appearing calm, strong, and composed matters so much. When others see you as unshakable, they treat you with respect. If you look weak, uncertain, or desperate, you invite attack. And this is where the second layer of power comes in, controlling your emotion. In moments of provocation, insult, or betrayal, your reaction decides whether you remain in control or hand your power away. A single outburst can undo years of respect. But silence, composure, or a carefully chosen word can leave even your enemies uncertain of how to reach you. Boundaries reinforce this control. Every time you allow someone to cross a line, interrupting, dismissing, disrespecting, you silently teach them to continue. But when you set limits calmly and firmly, you command respect without shouting. You decide what you will tolerate, and people adjust. This is not aggression. It is self-respect. And without it, no amount of strength will last. Then comes the deeper layer, inner strength. Machiavelli understood that dependence on external approval is a form of weakness. If your confidence depends on praise, if your direction depends on applause, then anyone can control you with silence or criticism. Real power means carrying your own approval, building knowledge, courage, and resourcefulness that cannot be taken away. When the crowd turns cold, you remain steady. When enemies attack, you remain grounded, because your worth is not theirs to give or take. Adaptability completes the picture. To survive in a world of shifting dangers, you must be both fox and lion, clever enough to spot traps, strong enough to frighten wolves, sometimes subtle, sometimes bold, sometimes silent, sometimes direct. The one who cannot change is easily broken. The one who can shift between cunning and strength, patience and action, cannot be cornered. This dual nature keeps you one step ahead of those who try to undermine you. All of this leads to one truth. You don't need to let anyone break you. because the power to remain unbroken already lives inside you. Machiavelli was not writing about fantasies. He was writing from a life of betrayal, torture, and even from his lowest point. He showed that a person who understands human nature, who controls perception, who controls reaction, who sets boundaries, who builds inner strength, and who adapts like both fox and lion, such a person cannot be bedies. And now the question is yours. Will you live begging, getting approval, waiting for loyalty that never comes, reacting to every insult, defending yourself against every voice? Or will you live the Machiavellian way, calm, strategic, self-reliant, untouchable? Remember, no one can hand you this strength. You already carry it. You only need to claim it. If you found power in these words, if you want more insights into the truths most people avoid, then stay with us. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us at Psych Algorithm as we continue uncovering the timeless lessons that turn weakness into strength and confusion into clarity. Your journey to unbreakable power has just begun, and this is only the first